What happens when the very signals that keep you alive are hijacked by invisible killers? From the faintest traces to doses that shut down the body in seconds. This is the full journey through every level of nerve agents. Level 0. This is where everything begins. No interference, no disruption, only the nervous system working the way nature intended. Every signal from your brain travels cleanly. Every muscle responds. Every breath happens without thought. The world is free from nerve agents here. It is the baseline of human life, the quiet hum of biology doing exactly what it was designed to do. Neurons fire, chemicals balance themselves, and nothing interferes. This is existence untouched. It feels so normal that you never stop to think about it. But that normality is fragile. Level 1. The first hint of something else. Still harmless, still unnoticeable. But now the idea of disruption enters the picture. Nature itself carries faint traces of substances that mimic the tiniest effects of nerve interference. Certain mushrooms, plants, even the venom of some animals carry compounds that nudge at the nervous system. Not enough to harm you, not enough to trigger panic, but they are real. They whisper of what is possible when the delicate machinery of the human body is tampered with. Eat the wrong berry and you might feel dizzy for a moment. Touch the wrong frog and your fingers might tingle. These are not weapons, not even accidents. Just nature showing that the nervous system can be tricked. For most of human history, these faint traces were curiosities, not dangers. They remind us that while level 0 feels permanent, it never truly is. Level 2. The line between curiosity and concern begins here. Still safe in ordinary life. But this is where measurable traces of synthetic nerve-like compounds enter the picture. Laboratories working with early chemical research, tiny residues from industrial processes, or accidental microscopic contamination. You will not collapse. You will not even feel it. But a scientist's instruments can tell the difference. Sensitive detectors hum with readings that your own body ignores. 1 part per million, 1 part per billion. These are numbers so small they mean nothing to your daily existence. Yet the fact they can be measured changes everything. It is no longer theory, no longer just the natural background of biology. It is proof that humans can create, detect, and track what nature only hinted at. At this level, nerve agents do not pose a threat, but they enter awareness. Military researchers, toxicologists, safety officers, they all begin their work here. Not because you are in danger, but because knowledge always starts with the smallest trace. It is the point where protective gloves are worn, where samples are sealed, where lab notes begin to matter. To a civilian, level 2 is invisible. To a trained eye, it is the moment when something harmless has the potential to become something else. These first steps feel almost insignificant, but they matter. Levels 0 to 2 set the stage for everything that follows. They remind us that the nervous system works flawlessly until the moment it does not. They show that disruption can start so small that no one notices. And they prove that once you begin looking for nerve agents, you will always find the faint echoes waiting at the edge of the ordinary. Level 3. This is where the quiet background begins to shift. You still feel fine. You can breathe, move, and think without noticing anything unusual. But to the people watching closely, something has changed. Scientists now measure exposure levels that are no longer just background noise. Detectors start to register activity that cannot be ignored. It is faint, controlled, not immediately harmful, yet it marks the point where rules and protocols begin. In laboratories or controlled environments, workers wear protective clothing. Instruments are calibrated more carefully. At this level, the human body is still managing on its own. But safety officers pay attention. Not because disaster is happening, but because this is where possibility begins to grow teeth. The nervous system is delicate, and at level 3, it begins to feel the faintest push. Neurotransmitters are still firing as they should, but the introduction of a trace amount of a nerve agent is like a small interruption in a conversation. The body shrugs it off, repairs what it can, and continues. You may never know it happened. But on a chart, a line moves upward. A scientist writes a note in the margin. These are the first signs that control is not absolute. Level 4. The border between safety and risk. Here, the effects of nerve agents can no longer hide in numbers on a graph. They step into the body itself. Exposure at this level is strong enough that the nervous system begins to show clear signs of disruption. It might start with something small, a flicker in the muscles, a twitch in the eyelids, a sudden headache that feels sharper than usual. You blink, and for a second, the world seems blurred. These are not dramatic collapses, but they are warnings. The chemicals at this level interfere with acetylcholine, the messenger that tells your muscles when to move and when to stop. Signals that should turn off keep firing. Muscles that should rest keep twitching. If exposure is short, the body can recover. Antidotes can reverse the effects. Time away from the source allows balance to return. But prolonged exposure, even at this level, forces the body to work harder than it should. The nervous system repairs and adapts, but every repair has its cost. Workers in this environment are monitored constantly, not because they are expected to collapse, but because no one wants to wait until collapse is the answer. Level 4 is where the first real symptoms emerge, and with them, the first sense of respect. The nervous system cannot be endlessly pushed without consequences. What begins as a twitch can become weakness. What begins as a headache can grow into confusion. For most people, this level is still survivable, still treatable, but it is also the place where accidents start to matter. A moment of carelessness, a broken seal, or a spill in the wrong room, and suddenly, this invisible threat has a voice. These levels mark the turning point. At 3, nerve agents are a scientific observation. At 4, they become a human experience. The difference may be small in numbers, but in the body, it is the first real sign that the system can be bent, and once it bends, the possibility of breaking comes closer with every step. Level 5. This is where the line between inconvenience and danger begins to blur. At this point, exposure is no longer just something that scientists write down in a notebook. It becomes something you feel. The nervous system is no longer shrugging off the interference. It is beginning to struggle. Short exposure here can bring nausea that rises in the stomach without warning. Muscles feel heavier, weaker, as if the body suddenly decided to tire itself out. Breathing may feel slightly more difficult, like a weight has been placed on the chest. None of this is instantly fatal, but it is unmistakable. The body knows something is wrong, even before you understand what. This is the level that soldiers and first responders might encounter in a contaminated environment. It is the range of accidental spills or attacks, where protection makes the difference between surviving and collapsing. The human body can endure a brief encounter, but not without cost. Nausea, weakness, dizziness, sometimes headaches that do not fade quickly. These are the early signals of a nervous system being pushed past its natural balance. To someone untrained, it might feel like food poisoning or heat exhaustion. To those who know what nerve agents can do, it is a warning sign that exposure has reached a threshold that must not be ignored. Level 6. The escalation is sharp. What began as discomfort becomes acute and undeniable. The nervous system is now under direct assault. Vomiting, convulsions, and heavy tearing from the eyes can strike with sudden force. Muscles misfire, sometimes locking, sometimes refusing to obey. A person exposed at this level may find themselves gasping for air, unable to control the rhythm of their breathing. They might collapse without warning, their body no longer fully under their command. At this stage, the effects are not just uncomfortable, they are dangerous. Without immediate treatment, the clock begins to tick. Antidotes such as atropine or pralidoxime are no longer optional precautions. They are the only chance at survival. Every minute matters. The nervous system, overwhelmed by signals that refuse to turn off, cannot keep up. Communication between brain and body becomes noise, and in that noise, control slips away. The tragedy of level 6 is how quickly it can strike. A worker in the wrong room for just moments, a soldier who removes their mask for a breath, a responder caught downwind. None of them set out to take in a lethal dose. But here, even small mistakes have consequences. The difference between standing and falling can be a single breath. Levels 5 and 6 are not abstract numbers on a chart. They are lived experiences that mark the shift from manageable risk to real danger. Here, the nervous system does not whisper, it shouts. The body makes it clear that the balance is breaking down. And though survival is still possible with help, every second of delay turns possibility into inevitability. Level 7. This is where the body begins to lose its grip on itself. The effects are no longer scattered or mild. They are systemic, total, and devastating. The muscles that keep you breathing grow weaker, each inhale more strained than the last. Seizures hit with relentless intensity, shaking the body into exhaustion. Consciousness flickers like a light struggling to stay on, until eventually it fails altogether. At this level, survival without treatment is a coin toss, and more often than not, the odds are not in your favor. Roughly half of all unprotected victims will not make it through. The nervous system, once a flawless command center, is breaking apart. This is not just sickness, it is collapse. The signals between brain and body are no longer reliable. The muscles that once obeyed with perfect timing twitch uncontrollably, then stop responding at all. Victims often fall into a state of confusion before slipping into unconsciousness. In moments, the difference between life and death becomes access to an antidote. Atropine and similar treatments can still pull someone back, but only if they arrive immediately, and only if the body has enough strength left to respond. Even with medical intervention, survival is never guaranteed. Level 8. Here, the breakdown is almost complete. At this stage, the body's ability to control itself is all but gone. Paralysis sets in, starting with the small muscles and spreading to the large ones. Breathing becomes impossible without mechanical assistance. The nervous system is overwhelmed by signals it cannot silence. The body suffocates not because the lungs are damaged, but because the commands to breathe never reach them. This level does not unfold slowly. It is swift, terrifying, and final. Organs begin to fail one by one. The heart strains to pump against a body in chaos. The kidneys falter. The liver shuts down. Nothing is spared. The paralysis is not calm. It comes with pain, confusion, and the knowledge that control is slipping away second by second. In some cases, burns or sweating appear on the skin, not from heat, but from the violent chemical struggle happening within. For medical teams, level 8 is nearly impossible to fight. Ventilators may keep the lungs moving, intravenous antidotes may stall the collapse, but the sheer amount of disruption often wins. Even in the best hospitals, even with the fastest response, survival is rare. Most victims never return. These two levels are where nerve agents show their true horror. Not silent, not subtle, but catastrophic. They strip away the body's most basic functions, leaving nothing but a fragile shell of what was once a person. At 7, the collapse begins. At 8, it is nearly complete. Beyond this, there are no minor symptoms, no manageable cases. There is only the rapid descent into suffocation, paralysis, and the edge of death. Level 9. This is the nightmare brought to life. Here, nerve agents reach a concentration so overwhelming that the body has no chance to resist. Within minutes of exposure, the brain's control over the organs begins to collapse. Breathing stops almost instantly as the chest muscles seize and then go limp. The heart, desperate to continue, beats irregularly before falling silent. Victims often lose consciousness in seconds, long before they can understand what is happening. To bystanders, it can look as though someone has simply dropped to the ground. In reality, their nervous system has been shut off like a switch. This is not a slow deterioration. It is an immediate crisis, a chain reaction of failures moving too fast for any intervention to reverse. Convulsions, choking, foaming at the mouth, and sudden collapse are common. Even the strongest antidotes struggle to act in time. Every heartbeat counts, and in most cases, there are too few left. Military studies and historical accounts describe doses at this level as effectively unsurvivable. Not because medicine has not tried, but because the agents work faster than biology can adapt. Level 9 is the range of battlefield nightmares and worst-case scenarios in chemical warfare. It does not wait. It does not forgive. Level 10. A step beyond even horror. This level exists more in theory than in practice, but its shadow is enough to unsettle even the most hardened scientists. Imagine a nerve agent that combines every lethal quality at once. Odorless, so you never know it is there. Invisible, so detectors cannot see it until it is too late. Fast-acting, so symptoms never have a chance to appear. Untreatable, so antidotes mean nothing. A single breath, a single second of exposure, and the body simply ceases to function. Muscles lock, lungs shut, the heart stops, and the brain is cut off before it can even register danger. In this imagined scenario, there is no warning, no gradual progression from twitching to seizures to paralysis. There is only silence. Victims may appear to faint peacefully, but in reality, their systems have been dismantled instantly, as if the wires connecting body and mind were severed all at once. Scientists describe this as a theoretical maximum, a perfect storm of toxicity that biology cannot withstand. No suit, no mask, no treatment could offer protection if the concentration and design were flawless. This is the level that lingers in the minds of those who study chemical weapons. It may never fully exist outside of speculation, but its possibility is enough to inspire fear, policy, and preparation. The very concept of Level 10 is what drives nations to ban, restrict, and monitor nerve agents with such intensity. Because if such a substance were ever created, humanity would have no defense. Levels 9 and 10 are the final chapters in the story of nerve agents. One is horrifying reality, the other a chilling possibility. Together they represent the end of control, the point at which life itself can be erased in an instant. If you found this breakdown fascinating, make sure to subscribe to the Toxer so you never miss our next deep dive. The Toxer explains every level, type, and intensity of toxins, poisons, and deadly substances in ways you'll never forget.